Good afternoon, all. Thank you for joining the call today. It's a webinar which is arranged from miniOrange in collaboration with our trusted partner, Cloud IBM, and we are into the space of identity and access management. So this webinar will mainly cover the activities, the demos associated with the identity and access management space, and the agenda of this webinar would be we'll talk about the miniOrange, our trusted partner, Cloud IBM. We'll also talk about the portfolio, what we have around identity and access management. After that, we'll have a live demos related to the products associated with the identity and access management space. Then we'll have a quick question and answer session where you can ask the questions and we could able to respond back. Also in between, if you have any questions, please put those things into the chat so that towards the end, we can have an interactive session and we can discuss it further. So myself, Gaurav, I look after the strategic partnership, the global business and alliances at miniOrange. Along with me, I'm having Manish, who is senior software engineer and who will be presenting a demo. This entire product presentation and the demos are supported by Manya and Urvesh. So let's start. So miniOrange, we are headquartered in New York, USA, and we operate from India. We are having around 500 plus employees. All our solutions are built in-house. We are having 15,000 plus customer across the globe, and we are into 100 plus odd countries. We are into this business of identity and access management from last 10 odd years. We have 50 plus security products which are riding on 5,000 plus security applications, and all those products which are available on our website are into the space of identity and access management are built in-house. About the Cloud IBM, we are glad, we are thankful for the leadership, Pratik Shah, Surenji, for their trust on miniOrange, and Cloud IBM is our trusted partner, and this relationship has founded, I think, at 2 years back, and we have converted many enterprises and good customers. Cloud IBM is founded in 1999, and they are having a wide experience in the domain of cloud and IT. They have deep expertise in the cloud migration, DevOps, DevSecOps. They are headquartered in India, but they have offices in US, UK, Singapore, and rest of the world. So they are our solution integrator and also MSSP partner. So this is the collaborative effort between the miniOrange and the Cloud IBM. So what is identity and access management, guys? So definitely this space is more relevant to us nowadays because there are thousands of cyber attacks happening on a day-to-day basis. So identity and access management deals about storing the digital identity, securing those digital identities, and whether the right people are having this access to those specific resources or not. And why there is an indispensable need for this IAM solution? The reason is everyone knew of cyber attacks which are happening, whether this is a government organization or the private organization. So it is assumed that they caused around 6 trillion annual loss. There is an increase in the ransomware attacks by 62%. So identity and access management is the basic solution which enhances the data security, the confidentiality, and also it achieves the perfect balance between the security and productivity. So this is the miniOrange identity and access management suite. We have a plugins, single sign-on and multi-factor authentication plugins for the marketplaces like Atlassian, WordPress, Joomla, and Drupal. We do have SSO and MFA connectors for any applications which is built in-house or which is built by the third party. The moment we know the technological stack of that particular applications, we do have a connectors for example, if you have any application which is built on the Java, we have a connector for the Java, Laravel, Node.js, PHP, or any other. So our main features, IDP, talks about the single sign-on, multi-factor authentication, adaptive multi-factor authentication, user provisioning, privilege access management, and identity brokering. So we have the clients across the globe. In India, we have the popular clients like PNB, DBS, Election Commission of India is our client, CCI, Wipro, and many other IT companies. We are emerging leader in IAM space in UAE and India, Dubai World Trade Center, Qatar Steel, Emirate Transport. These are all our top customers. So we have customers across the globe, whether it's NASA, Intel, Walmart, Bank of America, you name the brand, and we had a relationship with them in the past, or they are currently using either SSO or MFA connectors of the same. We are into the Gartners, we are in Insight, we are into the Capterra, we are Microsoft, Oracle, and AWS partner, and we are all into all those marketplaces. So this is basically our identity and access management portfolio, which talks about the single sign-on, multi-factor authentication, the identity brokering, user lifecycle management, adaptive authentication. We do provide solution for legacy application like SAP and Oracle. We are having the cloud as well as on-prem solution, though the data suggests that 60% of the companies are moving to the cloud, but there are the firms like banking applications which don't want to exploit their data onto the cloud. So we do have on-prem solution. That's also an edge over other competitors, where our look and feel of cloud as well as on-prem solution is as same. So we do the cloud deployment, on-prem and hybrid. When I say hybrid, I mean to say that few applications are on the cloud and few applications are on the on-prem solution. So we do have support for it. We support all SSO protocols, which include SAML, OAuth, JWT. We have 5,000 plus pre-integrated applications for all those applications which support standard protocol like SAML and OAuth. We provide 15 plus MFA methods, which is highest as compared to other competitors which are existing, which includes TOTP authenticators like push notif, like Microsoft, Google. We have OTP or SMS, email, call, push notification, and hardware token. We are known in the market for the support and the crisp features. We do provide training to our customers. We do the POC. Our engineers does the POC, and our solution is also available for white label. So whether your users are stored in any Active Directory, Oracle database, MySQL, miniOrange broker syncs with those and can enable either into the VPN, SAML, OAuth scheme, which is nothing but used for the provisioning, and also for the mobile apps, which is the JWT protocol. So single sign-on, talking about single sign-on, as mentioned to you, that we support every odd applications which support standard protocol like SAML, OAuth, or those who are legacy applications. We are having a proxy-based solutions for the same, and it can be easily integrated into it. MFA solution, we do have MFA or VPN. We have MFA or Windows and RDP machines, and we do have MFA or applications. So even though your current scenario, you must be having a VPN and you must be using some other MFA. So we are far better in terms of the features, also with respect to the cost. And we do have a single licensing for MFA or VPN, MFA or Windows machine or Mac machines, or MFA or applications, while our competitor charge around 3 different licenses for all those applications. What we are having an edge into the market on MFA is we have a holistic solution, and we have a single licensing for the same. When it comes to the identity brokering, in an application, in any organization, there are tons of application which talks different protocols, whether it's SAML or some support something else. And definitely you need to have an integration on a single platform where all these applications can be translated into a specific language, and then it can be converted for SSO and MFA. So identity brokering deals with that, where it's just like a translator which converts all those applications into a single platform, and then seamlessly you can have a SSO and MFA on top of it. This is also one of the pain points which we understood from last 2.5 years, where miniOrange, where any HRMS or CRMS system, and when any employee joins the company, so what basically it will happen is the HR or admin will have an manually they have to give access to that particular employee to certain set of applications. So it's completely a manual process. Similarly, when the employee leaves, when the employee gets deleted from these any HRMS or CRMS systems, they have to delete these users manually from all those applications. So this is provisioning and deprovisioning. And you must have seen the use case where your colleagues must be using their previous employer's email address, or they might be having access to those particular resources because it's a manual process. In user provisioning, our miniOrange broker syncs with your HRMS and CRMS systems or in Active Directory, and based on the role defined here, based on the policy defined here, on the fly it gives access to all specific applications, and on the fly deprovision it. So it's completely on the fly mechanism which automatically provision as well as deprovision it. So this is also the user lifecycle management. So post-COVID era, it became more popular, adaptive authentication, where the employer wants to restrict the employees not only based on the credential, but also with respect to the IP, location, device, and time of access. So we do have a solution for the same. Okay, moving on. So we have, for the cloud, we have our servers located in US, Europe, and Australia. And definitely on-prem, it's always a local server. So reach out to us in case of, any questions if you have, whether it's a cloud IBM or miniOrange. Thank you for joining the call. This is Gaurav. I am signing off, and now I am handing over control to Manish, who will present the demo and can showcase you the different facets of identity and access management portfolio. And towards the end, I am repeating again, towards the end, we will ensure that it will be given enough time for you to interact and have your questions answered. Thanks a lot, guys. Over to you, Manish.
Thank you, Gaurav. Thank you for the information. I'll be sharing my screen in a moment. Hello everyone, this is Manish Yadav. I am Senior Software Engineer at miniOrange, and today we'll be looking at the full demo of our miniOrange IDP product. If you have any questions, on the right bottom you can go to activities, and in the Q&A section you can post your questions, or you can also mention that in the chat. Your questions will be answered at the end of the session. So let's move forward to the demo. So usually whenever a user logs in a day-to-day life, they log into their Windows machine or any other machine they have. So what we'll be doing is, right now I'll be RDPing into a Windows server. And once I try to connect, it asks me for MFA. So this is the first place where you can enable MFA, and you can choose between the methods that you have enabled. So right now I'll be using Google Authenticator. And once I enter the code and click on login, it verifies the credentials and logs me in. Now, similar thing can be done if you have a Linux machine or a Mac device. And this is a Windows server, but you can also use your Windows desktop or Linux desktop of any OS. After logging into your Windows device, you will probably be logging into your VPN if you have one. So let's log into the VPN. Now, by default, my credentials are saved. In here, I have my username saved. Let me enter my password. Now, just after entering the password, I won't be able to log in. It should prompt me for MFA. So again, if you are using VPN, you can use our product to enable MFA on VPN devices. Once I enter the 6-digit code, it will log me in after verification. So a similar thing can be done over other VPNs as well. The experience will be similar. Earlier, you will be logging in with username and password, but now you have another screen for MFA. And this is also the same case for your routers or your firewalls, or if you have AWS workspaces, then we provide MFA on that as well. So let me disconnect and then hop over to the applications. So after logging into the VPN, you'll probably log into your email client, and I'm using Office 365 right now. And you can go to your office.com, and if you have a desktop client of Office 365, then you can use that as well, the Outlook client. So here I'll be entering my username, and once I click next, it won't ask me for the password. It will take me to the my miniOrange login page because miniOrange is federated with Office 365. Now here, again, I'll enter my password and it will prompt me for the MFA. Now I'll enter the MFA code. And just after that, I am logged into the Office 365 portal. Now, this is what it looks like to MFA into any of the application. If you have any other mail client like Google Workspaces, the experience will be similar for you as well. Now, let's go to the user dashboard that we provide. It's a simpler way to log into all of your applications. Now, my user dashboard is on my subdomain.securify.com. Everyone who logs in and creates an account with us gets a separate subdomain for their users to log in. Now, because I logged into Office 365, my session was already created, and this is my user dashboard where I landed, and I can use these links to log into the applications directly. Now, this is one of the applications that we have, that is ASP.NET application. By default, your ASP.NET application doesn't support SSO or MFA, but we do have our connectors in place. And using those, you can provide the MFA or SSO functionality. So as you can see, I am logged in with the same user. Now, if I go to my user dashboard again, I have a Oracle EBS application as well. So Oracle EBS is one of the legacy applications, and we provide our solution. We have our connectors in place for Oracle applications as well. And once I am verified, it should log me in with the same user. So this is an example where you log into a dashboard and you click on any of the application and you'll just logged into that application because your session is already there with us and the SSO connection between the application is already established. If you want, you can also go to your website, and then from there you can initiate the SSO like we did for Office 365. The experience will be similar. So this is a self-help portal as well. So you can set up MFA as well here. Now, as you can see, my default method is Google Authenticator, but I can set up any other method that I like. And these are all the methods that admin has enabled for me. So as a user, I'll be configuring any of these methods. And if you saw on the Windows login screen, you got a choice of multiple methods. Same thing can be configured on the browser application as well. In our case, we support various methods like OTP or SMS and OTP over email and authenticator apps like Google, Microsoft, and Authy. And we have our own authenticator app as well. And using our app, you can use the 6-digit code like you use in Google Authenticator, or you can also use our push notification. So this all can be configured from here. We also have a change password functionality. So a few of you must be having Active Directories on your on premises, and this self-help portal can also be used to change your password in your Active Directory. So the users won't have to bother you as an admin, and they can just change their passwords by themselves. Or if their password is expired, they can also reset their passwords. So this is mostly it for the user dashboard. Uh, we can now go to the admin side of things to see how the configuration looks like. So this is our main login page on login.securify.com, and this is only for administrators like yourself. So once you log in, you'll be taken to our admin dashboard. Here you can configure everything related to users authentication as well as the applications. So the first thing an admin would do is you will be going to customization, and then you'll be setting up your own branding. So as you can see, I have set up a branding over here. In your case, you'll be adding your own organization name that will create a subdomain for you. As you can see, you have been given a subdomain. This subdomain is for users to log in. and the admin can log in to this URL or the login.securify.com. We also have a configuration for custom email provider or SMS provider. If you have your own providers, then you can configure those. And if you don't have, we will provide you the SMS and SMTP provider, so you can use OTP or SMS and email. Now, after this basic configuration, you'll be configuring your authentication. For authentication, we provide authentication via external identity providers. So in our product, you can add external identity providers that support standard SSO protocols like SAML, OAuth, JWT, OpenID, and we support CAS as well. These providers can vary from Okta, Azure AD, ADFS, or Google Workspaces, or Salesforce, and many others. Right now, if you can see, we have configured Facebook and Google. Facebook and Google comes under social login providers. We have configured them via OAuth. So if you want your users to log in via their Facebook or Google credentials or Twitter or LinkedIn or any other, then you can configure those as well. Now, the next thing to get credentials is external directories. Now, we provide directory support for AD, any LDAP directory, your Active Directory or Open LDAP. AWS Cognito, if you have any database or if you have any API for authentication, or if you have a Radius server for authentication, we have support for that as well. For Active Directory, you can directly configure your directory using LDAP protocol. We have support for that. And if you want to store your configuration on premise, then we have a proxy module, LDAP gateway, that you can deploy in your DMZ, and then you can configure it from there. This is mostly used by the organizations that have all the configuration on premise, or if you don't have a public IP for your Active Directory, or if you cannot create one public IP, then in that case, you can just store your configuration on premise. We also have support for domain mapping. Now, the domain mapping is used by organizations which have multiple domains. Now, this is useful if you have, say, one directory for domain 1 and another directory for domain 2. So you can configure domain mapping for them. And this is it for the authentication. Once you have any one of these configured, your users can be authenticated. We can also import the users from the directories, but we'll come to that at a later point of time. After this, we can go to applications. Now, after authenticating, you'll be assigning users the applications. So for applications as well, we provide a standard SSO protocol support for all the SAML, WSFed, OAuth, OIDC, or JWT applications. Now, these includes Google Apps, Office, Zoho, WordPress, or Oracle, or Thinkific, or any other mobile application platform. We also have Radius protocol support, and this is mostly used by VPNs, firewalls, routers, AWS workspaces, and many others. For desktop applications, we have Windows, RD Gateway, RD Web, Linux, and Mac MFA. We also have our own browser extension that you can use for applications that don't have any SSO protocol functionality. This is, you can say, act like a password vault where you can store your credentials, and using one click, you can log into those applications. We also have support for provisioning as well. We'll come to that in a few minutes. So as an admin, you will be configuring all these applications, and after configuring these applications, you'll be providing access to these applications to your users. As you can see right now, we have Fortinet configured as the VPN we used, Office 365, EBS, RDP, and WordPress application. So WordPress is another example which does not support SSO by default, but we have our connectors in place using which we have enabled SSO or MFA functionality. Now, to assign a user an application, you can go to policies and app login policy. Here, if you see, all the policies are created with the default group. So that means by default, all the users have access to the applications. If you want, you can add a policy and make it group specific. So let's say if we have a Office 365 application and I want to restrict it with only a single group, you can choose that group here. Right now we don't have any other group, so that's why it's not showing up. This is used if you want to, let's say, enable MFA for one set of users and disable MFA for another set of users for any reason. One of those could be if you want to roll out MFA gradually in your organization. So maybe you have departments and you want to roll out MFA only for one department. So you can create a MFA policy for that department, and you can disable MFA for the other users. Now, for any policy, if you see for Office 365, I have a login method and I have a MFA enabled. Now, the login method is password. You can also use passwordless. Now, what this will do is this will just ask you for your username, and directly after that, it will ask you for MFA. It won't ask you for the password, hence passwordless login. Right now, let's configure it to keep it password and enable MFA. You can also configure adaptive authentication, and let's go over in detail in adaptive authentication, and then we can configure it. So if I go to adaptive authentication here, so adaptive authentication policy is used if you want to restrict a user based on IP, device, location, and time of access. Now let's try and configure a IP restriction policy. So for IP restrictions, I can enable IP restriction. I can give a IP range. If a user is in that IP range, then he will be allowed. If he's not in the IP range, he will be denied. I can configure this, and right now, let me configure my IP. So this is the IP I am running on right now. If I use the same IP and just let's say I am keeping it to be out of range. So this is my range of IP. You can keep this IP as your office range, office network range. If you want the users to only log in using your office network. And if you want, you can also enable device restriction. For device, this is mostly used if you have restricted devices, like you can only use your work laptop or work phone. So you can restrict users to log in and do the SSO into applications using your two devices. We also have a location based restriction. Now, in location based restriction, you can give a place, and this location is determined based on your IP address. So it's not super accurate, but we do have an option if you want to configure it. Now, the last is the time of access configuration. And this is used by the organizations that have a strict time policy for working. If you have a set of working hours you want to restrict to, you can configure that. You can choose the days, you can choose the time zone, and you can configure the start time and end time for the login. So right now, let's keep it simple and only enable IP restriction. So once I create a new IP restriction policy, I can see here, and let's change this policy in Office 365. So if I go to policies and search for Office 365, I enable adaptive authentication. I choose the Office IP. So just remember, this Office IP is not my IP. It's I'm out of this IP range. So it should not allow me to log in like it did earlier. So this is how we have configured adaptive authentication. Now let me open a new window. If I go to office.com and try to sign in, so I have entered my email and it will ask me for the password. Just after entering the password, it shows the message that you're not permitted to log in. Please contact your admin. So basically, the IP restriction policy kick in, and I'm not allowed to log in because I'm out of the IP range. And if I just go to the admin and search for Office 365, uh, let's change the adaptive policy. So let's go to adaptive authentication. edit the IP restriction policy, and my IP was 62, and if I make it, say, only single IP 62 and save this, and if I try to log in again, so let me close this and open a new one. There was a typo in the domain. So once I enter the username, I'll be taken again to the login page. And as I enter my credentials, it will prompt me for MFA because I forced MFA on every login. Now, similarly, once I enter my credential, it should log me in. There you go. So this is how IP restriction or any adaptive policy will look like. Let's hop over to admin again. All right. So after adaptive authentication, let's go over to provisioning. So using provisioning, you will be importing all of your users, or if you have your own HRMS software, you'll be assigning your users to those, and your user should be created to all the other applications. We have provisioning support for Active Directory and Office 365 and Google Workspace and all the other applications. If an application does not support provisioning, we do have connectors for a few of them, and you can see a default list over here. Right now, I have configured provisioning with Office 365. So as you can see, I have create user, edit, delete, and password sync enabled for the users of Office 365. If you want, you can also import users from Office 365 or Azure. We'll see provisioning in action in a few minutes. So after configuring provisioning, you can go to import users and import from the application that you have configured, or you can import the groups from that application. Now, this is also useful if you have, let's say, Active Directory, and you want to import all of your security groups from there, from an organization unit, and you want to restrict applications based on those security groups. All right, so let's go to user section where you can see a complete list of all the users that are here. All the users that are green are onboarded and have registered. All the users are red are not yet registered. You can send them a password reset email so that they can change their password and onboard. If you go to onboarding status, you can configure and select those users to change their password and send them a password reset link. Now, if I go to the user list again, I can add a user here. So let's add a user here. So before adding the users, I had configured provisioning to Office 365. So let me just take you to Azure. And if I search for the webinar user right now that I am about to create, it doesn't exist. But if I go to the dashboard, admin dashboard again, and if you create a user here, now this user is created. Let me just search for the user. So the user is created and his default second factor type is email. Now, once your user is created over here, because you had provisioning enabled, you can go to Azure and then search for the user again. So as you can see, the same user is created here as well. Similar thing can be done with any of your application that supports provisioning. And we do support skim provisioning as well, which is supported by many HR softwares. And let's now configure 2FA for this user. So for two-factor authentication, you as an admin can configure 2FA for your users. Now, this is a setup 2FA for you as an admin. You can configure your MFA to this portal. You can just click on enable and it will be enabled for your admin portal. For users, you can configure the 2FA options provided to the users. The first section shows what's the default method whenever a user is created. This is the default 2FA method assigned to them. And you have a full list of options that we support. All these 2FA methods can be enabled or disabled. Now, if you disable a method over here, the user won't be able to see this in their dashboard. They won't be able to configure it. We also have a support to show a configurable screen or a choice screen on your login to choose between the configured method. So right now, when I was logging into Office 365, I was only asked for Google Authenticator. But if I want, as an admin, I can configure this option so that users will get a choice if they have multiple options configured, like Google or let's say Microsoft or OTP or email, and then they can choose which 2FA method they want to use right now. We also have onboarding flow where you can enforce users to set up 2FA on their first login. So let me just save these options right now. So these are all the 2FA options that you can configure for your users. Let's go to user section again. We do have user roles that you can use to provide access to this dashboard or the user dashboard based on their groups, or you can assign different users different roles. By default, you have a user role and an additional admin role. You can tweak the capabilities of the admin, or you can also create new roles. Now, these roles can be useful if you want to assign individual users to manage your authentication sources, a different user for application or policies, and a different user for user management or provisioning, let's say. Next, we have user profile fields. These are just some additional attributes that you can configure in the Manage portal. You can assign these attributes from any of your external directory, or you can manually assign them to the users as well. We also have shared identities, which are useful if you have a shared login. So if you have a support email, let's say, and you want to give access to the multiple users, and by default or usually you will be providing the same credentials to all the users that want access. But in miniOrange, you can create an email and just assign that this is shared amongst a set of users. Then you won't have to share the credentials of the shared email, let's say administrator. You will be assigning this email as a shared email to all of these users that you want. Once that is done, your user can log in with his own email, let's say Ankit or Citizen. And once they log in using their own email, they can access to the shared provider as well, the shared email as well. So we do have this functionality, and this is also used by many of our customers. After users, we have group section. This group section also has the similar details. You can list down all the groups, you can create a group, or you can import the groups, and groups also have custom fields, just like users. So after this, we have a report section as well, where you can have various reports, and you can see which user logged in at what time using these reports. So now let's use the user that we just created to see how the onboarding flow looks like. So let me just open a new window, and let me go to my login page. So my login page is visible in branding configuration, and it's there at the bottom. So this is my login page, and this can be customized based on your requirements. I just had my dark mode enabled, so let me disable it. So once I enter my credentials, because I had initial onboarding enabled, I am directly asked to configure the 2FA method. So I can choose any method of my choice and I can configure it. Let me go ahead and show you push notifications if it is enabled. Yeah, right there. So push notifications can be configured using our own miniOrange Authenticator app. I've scanned the QR code and it just shows me to go next. Perfect. Now I am registered and I can actually now go to office.com and I should be able to log in with the user. So if you see in the Azure portal, I have the user created over here, and this user has access to the Office 365. So if you go back to the admin again and go to report section, you can go to user login report, and then you can search based on date and the user. So right now it just shows all of the authentications that took place and the total number of time that took place. If I go to the individual user, it will show me more details like the timing or the IP address from which the user logged in. So this will be all for the demo. If you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A section and we'll be answering your questions in the few minutes. Thank you.
Thank you all for the wonderful session. Looking forward to have another session in month's time. Thank you. Good day, guys. Bye. Thank you, Suren sir. Thank you, Pratik sir.